For a moment, think about the things you do when you wake up in the morning. You open your eyes, breathe, straighten up, stand up and walk, eat and put on your clothes. You talk to your loved ones. Then you go out or look outside through the window and see the deep blue sky. You might even hear the singing of birds outside the window. You feel the warmth of the sun and the wind on your face. There are people in the street, walking or trying to go somewhere in their cars. In short, another ordinary day has begun for you. What you see and hear are all ordinary things, so you don't feel it necessary to think consciously about them. Now, assume that you have lived in one room since you were born. This is completely bare, without even a small window through which you could see outside. It is furnished with only a few pieces of plain furniture for your basic needs. Suppose that in this room where you lead your life, you are provided with just a few kinds of food and drink necessary for you to survive. Then imagine you are taken out of this your life and you see the outside world for the first time. In such a situation, what would you think of the world? The broadness of the vista reaching your eyes, the existence of light, the warmth of the sun striking your face, the deep blue color of the sky and the pure white clouds. All of this will certainly dazzle you. Twinkling stars appearing in the sky at night, mountains reaching to the sky in all their magnificence, rivers, beautiful to all humanity, lakes and seas, the heavy rain which brings life to the earth, green trees, colorful lilacs and roses, strawberries and peaches with their different flavors, cats, dogs, and rabbits that inspire affection in human beings, butterflies with their amazing colors, birds and sea creatures. Every new thing you see and every piece of information you learn arouses new excitement in you. You try to learn the reason and origin of everything. As you learn these detailed pieces of information one by one, your mind will pose the same questions repeatedly. How have all these magnificent living things come into existence? How have I myself come into being? Since everything has a purpose, then why am I here? There is no doubt that there can be only one answer to all these questions. These are all examples of God's flawless creative artistry. The presence of God pervades all places, and everyone capable of using their reason will immediately see this immaculate splendor in creation. The most important duty of someone who begins to comprehend the superior might of God and His boundless artistry is to turn to the true Lord of these beauties and to lead a life that will be pleasing to Him. In this film you will be seeing a few examples from the lives of the magnificent creatures in which God displays His artistry. You will witness how every living thing is created with features appropriate to its surroundings, and how each being that was created required careful planning, calculation, and another way, you will see the signs of creation which God reveals to us in these creatures. Indeed, God reveals one of these examples of creation in a verse from the Quran. And in your creation, and all the creatures He has spread about, there are signs for people with certainty. These birds, one of the signs of God's matchless creation with their stunning colors and beautiful appearance, live in colonies in lakes with large quantities of mud. The depth of the water in the lake is not only for them to feed, but also for them to nest. The different colored feathers vary according to the species of flamingo. The tones may range from pale pink or vermilion. The food they eat, which is high in alpha and beta carotene, determines the color of their plumage. They feed on diatoms, seeds, blue-green algae, filtering them from the water. There are special finger-like projections in the flamingo's beak, which it uses to filter the food particles. Flamingos live in pairs in colonies. Every pair does not breed every year, and there is no specific season for breeding, although the rainy season is more conducive to mating. This is because nest building may be easier in times of rain. It is also easier to find food during such periods. Flamingo nests resemble volcanoes in shape. There are numerous fine details in the nest construction. When building their nests, they use mud, small stones, and their own shed feathers. The most important and noteworthy point here is that the mixture employed by the bird can dry out very quickly. It is around 11 inches high. The nest protects the egg as water level rises. It takes at least 6 weeks for a pair of flamingos to build a nest. The mother and father take turns to incubate the eggs over a period of between 26 and 31 days. They manage this with ease, despite their long legs. Every pair in the colony mates at the same time, for which reason the majority of these birds lay their eggs and raise their young at the same time. The chicks that hatch out of the eggs are gray in color. That gray will turn to pink over the next 3 years. In this huge colony, the parent birds recognize their own chick by the sound it makes. Each family looks after its own offspring. The young are nest when they are 4 to 7 days old. Once all the young in the colony, the adults reach the nest area where they rear. Flamingos are excellent swimmers. Their webbed feet make it easier for them to swim. Thanks to the broad, flat structure of their feet, flamingos are able to walk on the mud without sinking. The webs between their toes provide a large surface with which the flamingos can push against the water. All the flamingos show that these birds have been created in the most appropriate manner for their environment. This superior creator is God, Lord of the earth and the heavens and all that lies between. Boobies, with their 5.9 feet wingspan, are the largest seabirds. They feed by hunting fish close to the surface of the water. They fly by beating their wings or gliding and are able to spot fish from as high as 98 feet. In order to catch fish, they fold their wings and dive straight down like an arrow. The bird's strong skull suffers no damage during such dives. Furthermore, the air sacs in its head absorb the shock from diving. Boobies live in colonies on steep cliffs or on small islands near the shore. Land-dwelling carnivores are unable to harm the young in such places. These birds, which live in temperate and regions, spend much of their time in the sea. They reproduce in colonies on shores or islands. Boobies build their nests on steep cliffs on Canada's eastern seaboard. These nests are very wide and range in height from 11 to 23 inches. The nests are constructed using plants, seaweed, feathers, and soil, mixed with a substance known as guano. The places where boobies build their nests are very noisy. Yet this bird is immediately able to locate its mate from among thousands of other birds after emitting a cry lasting just 1 second. The parents take turns to incubate their young. The bird that is to this approaches the bow-legged fashion, then wraps its legs around the egg and sits on it. "43 to 44 days later, a small hole appears in the egg. Within the next 36 hours, a small defenseless chick will hatch out and open its eyes. The chick grows rapidly in its first 10 days and is protected by its parents. The family help with feeding the chick. When the parents return to the nest with food, the chick immediately goes up to them and shakes. It is very hungry. It makes this clear by issuing an increasingly loud, monotonic cry. It then receives food that has already been digested in its parents' stomachs. Until they reach a size capable of eating a whole fish, these baby birds are fed with this liquid mixture in their parents' stomachs. Booby birds possess one little known feature. The places where these birds live were once used as lighthouses until the of lighthouses in the 20th century. God placed the white feathers of the booby bird, which shine in the dark, at the service of human beings. At a time when technology was not far advanced, the presence of such a convenience was of course a great blessing from Almighty God. God reveals the blessings He has bestowed on human beings in the Quran. Don't you see that God has subjected to you everything in the heavens and earth, and has showered His blessings upon you, both outwardly and inwardly? Yet there are people who argue about God without knowledge or guidance or any illuminating book. He has made night and day subservient to you, and the sun and moon and stars all subject to His command. There are certainly signs in that for people, and also the things of varying colors He has created for you in the earth. There is certainly a sign in that for people who pay heed. Eagles build their nests where nobody can reach them. They roll their eggs over every 3 hours to prevent the embryos sticking to the shells. After the young eagles have hatched, they are carefully fed by their parents. Food is given to the chicks in the form of small scraps torn off by their parents. Eagles keep parasites and insects that might harm their eggs and young away from the nest, lining their nests with aromatic plants containing protective substances. All eagles have an extra eyelid called a nictitating membrane. The function of this special lid is to clean and protect the eyes of the birds. For example, eagles usually pull the membranes over their eyes when feeding their chicks. It is a precaution against any harm that these chicks might accidentally inflict as they lunge for food. Day. The reason for this is that the air temperature that rises during the hot daytime hours permits the bird to use less energy. Grooming for eagles is of great importance in flying and hunting, especially when flying at speeds of up to 70 or 80 miles an hour. The feathers also need to be maintained against the harmful effects of water and wind. This maintenance is carried out thanks to an oil gland at the bottom of the tail feathers. They take the substance produced in this gland in their beaks and rub it over their plumage. The eagle needs to be both light enough to be able to take off and strong enough to carry its prey after catching it. A bald eagle has more than 7,000 feathers. However, when you put all these feathers together, they weigh only approximately 20 ounces. In order to provide a lighter body weight, the insides of the bones are hollow. The total weight of a bald eagle skeleton is just over half a pound. An eagle derives the force it needs for flying from the downward strokes of its wings. For this reason, its muscles that pull the wings downwards are much upwards. Muscles are very important for an eagle. These muscles generally weigh half of the bird's total body weight. The eagle can fly faster or wants faster, it turns the front edges of the wings into the wind and thus cuts through the air. When it wants to go slower, it turns the wide surface of its wings into the wind. Some eagles dive down through the air at unbelievable speeds. During such dives, they approach speeds of 200 miles an hour. Large eagles strike their prey very fast. The speed at which a bald eagle strikes is twice as powerful as a rifle bullet. The eagle flight system has been specially created in order for it not to hit the ground and be killed while diving. In order to avoid striking the ground, it is capable of adjusting its speed and braking, as well as of seizing its prey and then climbing back into the air. Not even warplanes produced with the latest technology are capable of such maneuvers. This shows us that the eagles cannot calculate all these maneuvers for themselves. Naturally, the eagle lacks the intelligence with which to calculate these. It is Almighty and omniscient God who causes them to do this. This fact is revealed in a verse. There is no creature he does not hold by the forelock. African penguins. They are rather different to the penguins we are familiar with. They live on the coasts of South Africa. 23 inches and 7.7 pounds in weight. These penguins are excellent swimmers and spend most of their lives in the water. They are capable of swimming between 4 to 14 miles an hour. Their shiny waterproof feathers protect their skins from drying out. Shed their old plumage once a year and grow a new one. This process takes 3 weeks, during which they can neither eat nor swim. African penguins scrape their nests out of the sand, beneath rocks or bush, or out in the open. It comes as a surprise to see penguins making nests on land, but they protect their eggs from predators by means of these nests. These penguins can breed at any time of the year. They generally lay 2 eggs. The incubation period lasts for an average of 40 days. The baby African penguins grow into adults in 3 to 4 years. The parent birds take turns to protect the nest, care for their young, and look for food. The parents feed throughout the day. Their diet includes sardines, anchovies, and sometimes cuttlefish. They feed their chicks with the food they eat. The creatures you see living in these rocky places feed by catching passing plankton in the water. Seaweeds are slowly beginning to grow in the cold water. It is early spring. As the sunlight increases and warms the water, these small plants emit ribbon-like protrusions from their round heads. Seaweeds extend up to 98 or 131 feet to the surface in order to trap the sunlight. Southern California. Kelp living among other seaweeds. Kelps can grow as much as 18 inches a day in the middle of summer, and they possess a high photosynthesis capacity. They are attached to the rocks below by their holdfast system. The holdfast is the root-like part of the kelp. These giant plants constitute marine forest by growing up to 213 feet tall. The animal known as the blacksmith fish lives in this marine forest. It feeds on plankton. If it is safe, the fish travel to the open sea, which is rich in plankton. If they encounter a danger, they immediately return to the marine forest. It is not only fish that live in these forests. Sea otters also rest and sleep in safety here. They install themselves in sea to avoid being dragged along in the water. The otter later descends to the seafloor to feed. Sea otters have dense fur on the undersides of their bodies. This serves to repel water and soon dries out after becoming wet. Sea otters have very flexible bodies. The muscular tail is thick and flat at the base. Point. This feature assists otter in swimming. A great many species of sea otter have webbed feet. All the otter a most expert swimmer. God has created all the features of the otter, a water dweller, in such a way as to allow it to move through the water with ease. God reveals in one verse of the Quran that He has created living things with features. God created every animal from water. Some of them go on their bellies, some of them on 2 legs, and some on 4. God creates whatever He wills. God has power over all things. Contrary to what is popularly believed, seahorses are very small creatures. Their size varies from about 1.6 to 11 inches. They usually live along the shore among seaweed and plants. A bony armor protects them from any kind of hazard. This armor is so strong that it is impossible to crush a dried, dead seahorse using only your hands. The head of the seahorse is set at a right angle to its body. Seahorses swim with their bodies straight up, and they can bend their heads up and down. But they cannot turn their heads from side to side. This might cause sight problems in other creatures. Seahorses have none, thanks to bodily features. The seahorse's eyes can move independently, rotating about to watch each easily. Their eyes, which can see in several directions at the same time, represent a grave danger for a pouch resembling that of the female kangaroo. During mating time, the female seahorse deposits a large number of eggs into this pouch. The eggs stay in the pouch for 1.5 months. The male seahorse feeds the eggs with a liquid inside the pouch. Capillary vessels in the interior tissue of the incubating sac provide a supply of oxygen. Once the eggs have developed, minute seahorses emerge from the pouch. The water is particularly amazing. Their swimming is affected by a very special system. It rises and sinks in the water by changing the volume of the gas in its swim bladder. This bladder is damaged and loses a little bit of gas. The seahorse Such a mishap causes the seahorse to die. Here there is a very important point that should not be missed. The amount of gas in the bladder has been adjusted in a very sensitive way. For this reason, the slightest change may cause the death of the creature. The seahorse, which is only one of the millions of species living beneath the sea, has unique characteristics in many aspects. The amazing attributes of the seahorse is just one example of God's boundless power and eternal knowledge. God reveals this fact thus in the Quran. Among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and all the creatures he has spread about in them. Gather them together whenever he wills. In this film we have witnessed the magnificent creation of God that can be observed throughout the entire universe. We have seen examples from the living world equipped with incomparable features. Yet here is an important point that we should not forget. Examples we give, these will never be enough to illustrate the eternal power of knowledge of God. God is the only one who has the most beautiful names and complete power. Everything, both animate and inanimate, whether you see it or not, can only function and operate with God's permission. God creates all human beings and animate and inanimate objects and keeps them under his control. As it is related in the Quran, there is no creature he does not hold by the forelock. What befalls a person who is aware of these facts is to lead a life as God commands, and to do good to please him. Everyone must eliminate the causes that make him heedless of God's remembrance, and that hamper him from thinking through his own efforts. He is God, the Creator, the Maker, the Giver of form. To him belong the most beautiful names. Everything in the heavens and earth glorifies him. He is the Almighty, the wise.